Hello and welcome to Turning Inward with Dr. Vivian Carrasco. Our intention today is to open your heart and nurture your spirit as you travel on the road without miles, moving inward on your epic and personal journey of self-discovery. I am Rebecca Polvey, your co-host, and I'm here with Dr. Vivian Carrasco. We are excited to continue to share segments of Love.Being.Human with you and grateful that you are here with us today. Today's a bonus episode. It's just informal conversation, and it's going to be about Vivian's recent episode.
This podcast offers you the opportunity to explore new perspectives through compelling interviews with beautiful human beings and words of wisdom and love. This show was created to guide and inspire you. If you're looking for more meaning in your day-to-day life, if you're looking to be wowed by everyday people, if you're on a journey to joy, peace of mind, freedom, or a wild new adventure, then honey, you are in the right place. Welcome to Turning Inward with Dr. Vivian.
Vivian?
Thank you, Rebecca. I just got back from a meditation center where I learned a technique called Vipassana and a few others, Metta and Prana. So I was there for 10 days, and there was a very strict code of discipline, and that included a thing called noble silence, which was no speech and no communication and gesture or contact. We worked diligently from 4:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, and I just got back yesterday, and so I thought that we would have a conversation, just a natural sort of what you're curious about and what ends up coming out of my mouth about it.
Okay.
To share with folks and just to record it just as it comes. So I might be talking slow because I still feel sort of dazed about it.
Yeah, my first thought, if I can just jump in real quick, is the noble silence, because, I can understand that, why that would be part of the experience, but that goes against, like for me, my natural thing is always to smile and say hello, and that just comes bubbling out of me, so that must have been very unusual experience.
And yes, it was unusual, and it was so difficult because me.
That's
not me at all.
No, not at all, Vivian. You're very warm and very loving. To me, my communication, my loving, that part just comes out of my spirit, my soul. That just I have a hard time to hold that back.
I did, to be honest.
I would have liked to have been a bird on your shoulder.
You wouldn't have had a good time, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I do like to meditate and think about things. And when I do that, when I'm out on the trail and I'm walking, that's my hour where I'm really focused. So I have to say, I admire you for 10 days. Wow. I've been really curious to hear.
That actually, because that's so against my natural nature, is part of the reason I wanted to go to the meditation center, and why I made the commitment to be there in seclusion and literally work in solitude, is because I wanted to step out of the patterns of my mind and the habits of my lifestyle. And that Love.Being.Human, part of that is, being aware of our habits so that we move closer to intended responses, more inspirational action. And that's why I did it. And it was really, really difficult. It was difficult.
Well, when you say, okay, so I'm curious, because I did think about that when you told me you were going to go away, and I thought, I wonder, I know Vivian, her mind is still going to be percolating around there, even if she's meditating, and I thought, so do you think, 10 days is a long time? Did it change, or how do I want to say this, inspire, or, your Love.Being.Human journey, this journey you're on where you're trying to decide, where you're going with this? Did something come to your mind as an aha moment, or was that not part of it?
Oh, it was
Like for you experienced it. I know they probably had intentions for you to experience certain things, right?
Well,
Is that,
the practice, it's a technique. Vipassana, it's a technique. It's mind discipline, and it's there's
oh,
a and the thing that I like about it when I was doing the research is that it is the pure teachings of the original Buddha, from 2,500 years ago, and completely free of sectarianism or sectism, or and Buddhism is not an ism. It is not a religion. It is a path. And so the first 3 days we established ourselves in the initial path, which is, I'm just gonna, I told you I wouldn't ruffle my papers, and I am.
it's okay.
Is Sila, which is, I think that's it. I don't want to get it wrong. Which is noble, which is yes, Sila, which is moral conduct. And that's the main intention for noble silence, is because you're not speaking lies. You're not speaking at all. And they've even prepared our food for us, and we had established meal times. And so you establish yourself. Sometimes it's like, is the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart? In this way, you're working on all of that at the same time. And so when you're in complete moral conduct and complete isolation, then the expectation is that your own truth bubbles up as your wisdom. The as you go along the path, it is called Panna, the wisdom of insight. So it totally aligns with Love Being Human. And what it did inspire me is that, Love Being Human, with love being the ultimate state, is that state of going home, of being in peace and in joy and in contentment. And in the Buddhist teachings, that is called balance, basically, equanimity, not being unbalanced of the mind. And when you're not unbalanced, you can feel at peace and in joy.
So, but as part of the noble silence, like when you said they prepared your meals for you, did you sit quietly through the meals without speaking to each other?
Yes, and without touching. There was no speaking, no eye contact, no gesture like yes or thank you, or, you were there and you were instructed to work in solitude. And the group of women was about 50. It dwindled down to, I think, 38 before the course was over. But you work in solitude, and that was part of the attraction for me, is what are the thoughts. What are my thoughts? What's my internal truth outside of culture, outside of practice, outside of habit? What is it that bubbles up for me at the deepest inner state? And it completely aligned with Love Being Human, because this path teaches you to become aware of your sensations, because so we limp along with the tip of the iceberg of the intellect of the body. And Love Being Human, like this Buddhist teaching, is a way to become aware, to awaken to your own truth. Like your body, before a thought arises, it's a sensation in your body. And if you are aware of that sensation, then you can almost catch the thought before it comes up, because you know that something is changing in your body. And I'll have to share an example of that. On the second day, I wanted to run away. On the sixth day, I pretty much almost ran away. But I used what I heard Martha Beck teach, a technique called the body compass. And it's where you align yourself to what your body's truth is. And so the way I'll describe it very briefly is, you stand on, barefoot on a flat surface, and I thought of something that brings me ultimate joy, something that I know without a twinkle of a doubt that is pure. And I thought of playing with my nephews. They're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I thought of just being all around them, and my body gravitated forward. And then I thought about a thing that I personally don't enjoy at all, like it's my least favorite thing in the world. And I thought about scrubbing toilets. And, it's total aversion, right? So my body leans backwards. And so I asked myself the question, should I stay for the course? And my body leaned forward. And I said, no, you're not understanding the question. So I asked it 4 different times, over a couple hour intervals, and I kept leaning forward. So I was like, gosh, I got mad. I got angry. I was like, okay, I'll stay. Because I knew that my truth was, complete this. You're wanting to leave out of fear. It is not your best path. And that's love being human in its essence is, figure out what your own truth is. Create the space to respond in your best way and know that that's fully aligned in love, for your best interest and the best interest of everyone around you. But that didn't keep me from wanting to run away on day 9 and day 10.
But you used the Love Being Human.
Yes, because Love Being Human, a year ago in October was an inspiration that somehow came to me. But I believe it's a way of life, and it's how I live. And as you're journeying with me, I'm figuring out how to teach that and how to create that into the world. And I think that this was a really important, a really significant step in doing that.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's good. So here's an interesting question. Would you go back and do this again?
David asked me that.
Oh, he did.
He's like, would you do this again? And I think it was a sort of like are you going to do this again?
I can only imagine that he missed you, Vivian.
Oh,
and your
he
voice.
did. Oh, gosh, that was hard. Yeah.
But you were gone when it was his birthday.
I did. I missed his birthday.
I know.
It was Friday.
I saw it on Facebook. I gave him a hello birthday shout.
Oh, thank you for doing that. And because I knew I was going to be gone during his birthday, we celebrated while Joshua was in town over Thanksgiving and had a pre-birthday. But yeah, it was tough. And that was when I also missed one of Jacob's football games. He's at semi-state finals. They're going to state next week.
Wow, that's all. So would you go back and do this again, Vivian? Was once enough?
I think right now once is enough.
Yeah.
I think if I got to a place in my life where I knew, because my heart pulls me forward. If I got to a place in my life where I think I was becoming calloused and blind to what's in front of me or what's ahead of me, then I would definitely do it again. But right now I feel almost like I need to protect myself because I feel so tender and open and receptive. Mm-hmm. It would not be something I would run towards in the next 5 to 10 years for sure, unless something in my life called me to it.
Mm. But it was a really good experience, it sounds like, even though it was tough.
Yeah, that word good. I don't know about that.
I might be stretching it. It sounded like the food wasn't good.
Well, actually, when I said that to you, I knew that you would be curious about the food. And I don't, sometimes I intentionally distract myself from the details because I know that they will deter me. I didn't realize that I was going to be vegetarian and almost gluten and dairy free the entire time.
Right.
There were whole foods, organic foods. There were, and that's part of being in moral conduct. Part of the foundation is not only are you not bringing in new negative energies into your mind, you're also, feeding yourself with the purest, best foods. And, they were, I think, Indian in nature, lots of oranges and yellows and, tea. Oh, this you'll find funny, Rebecca. Remember our last conversation? I said my only real vice left is caffeine. Yeah,
they take away your tea,
I have no coffee.
Did you have a headache?
I did not.
Really? Oh,
I did not.
Maybe I drink more coffee.
No, I know I was drinking a lot of coffee, so I think the tea helped, but I was like, just when I say something, I'm going to have to, I was thinking of you. I was like, I'm going to have to tell Rebecca this. There was no coffee.
So, but did you look forward to a cup of tea when you got home, though?
I was actually a little bit nervous. And my first cup of coffee was bitter.
Oh.
It was bitter.
Well,
and I'm drinking tea right now, so I don't know if that's changed a habit. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. But, well, I always think it's important not to be too judgmental of yourself and to look at the experience as a whole. I think it's probably pretty normal to miss your cup of coffee. I know I like my cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or your cup of tea.
Well, that first, and you know, it's more of this, I realized it's not actually the coffee, it's the sensation of that warm liquid, the breaking the fast, you know, because you're sleeping. And so breaking that fast that we take on during sleep. And for me, I guess I'd like it being, you know, warmth.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not grumpy in the morning. Like I wake up when my feet hit the floor. I've told you, I think you select your attitude when you get up in the day, and I like getting my little cup of coffee and just kind of drinking it, and it tastes good to me. I get awake. It's like what you say, and you know, if my husband comes down, I'm happy. I'm not grumpy. So it's from some people they're grumpy until they have their cup of coffee. For me, it's just that experience of when I get up in the morning. You know, when the sun's getting ready to come up, I like that, sitting and having my cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's like it's not spiritual, but I really do enjoy it.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the word spiritual because, you know, by belief in Christian and by religion and Catholic, and this is, you know, I was in a course of Buddhist teachings.
Oh, okay.
And I actually wanted to address that. You know, this, like I said earlier, you know, Buddha did not teach a religion, and this is not about a conversion. It's about a way of living, a disciplined way of living where you are aware of your mind and, you know, and in touch with your own personal truth. So, in my opinion, and I'm not interested in hearing anyone else's, it does not go against those beliefs, you know, because it strengthened my relationship to myself, and I believe my relationship to God and to others. So,
oh, I can understand that. I would then say it sounds like it was a compliment to your beliefs. Because maybe it even helps you internalize and look closer how you're walking that path of when you believe.
Oh, that's very well said. Yeah, both my beliefs and my values. And you know, through Love.Being.Human, I value a responsible action.
You know, a lot of times when I write prayers for different things, and like when I write them for our Q&As and different things and different groups I'm involved in, I always say that I hope that I pray from my heart that we can remain humble and lead by example. And I wonder, is humbleness or for me, humbleness has a lot of meanings. For me, it can even mean being introspective and looking inside of yourself and taking a look at what you're doing and what path you're on. So I always pray for that, and I think that it sounds like what you were doing will complement that type of praying and thinking.
Definitely. Definitely. And I actually reached out to my godmother just now before this, and part of that text message was, you know, the humility of my heart and the awareness of, you know, moving closer towards, you know,
your faith.
Yes.
Your faith?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's beautiful. And I that's really nice. That's nice to hear that. I don't think we should be afraid to, you know, I think for me, if you have strength in your faith and your beliefs, that it's a good thing for you to try and experiment and learn about something different like that. I think if you're comfortable in your own feelings, then you have that courage and strength to try that. And that's also what Love.Being.Human is about, right? Is having courage and strength to take a look.
To take a look, to go on that quest.
Yep.
And that quest isn't like we don't leave from here to, you know, there to get where we need to go. Our home is in ourselves, in our peace, in our natural state. And the quest is always the questions we ask. And
so maybe that's when someone asks you to define Love.Being.Human, that's some way of explaining it.
That's a very good point. And you know what? We're recording this, so I'll remember we said that.
Good. I asked my husband today, what's the love being human to you? And he said, well, I think it's that Vivian is discovering exactly what love being human is going to be. That's what I think it is. He said she's on a journey and she's discovering what that's going to be and how exactly she's going to present that to other people.
It's exciting. It's exciting. Exciting in a not manic way, not in a like eager reaching way, but just totally.
How about like in a gentle, loving, like that excitement where your heart feels good because there's something just good going on there.
Yes, like being held.
Yeah, like a safe feeling.
Oh, totally, totally.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I thought about you. I just felt like 10 days was a really long time to go do that. And I think I really admire you that's a huge commitment. I mean, I could understand why some people leave. I mean, if you go there, that just some folks that might not be for you, you know?
Yeah. Well, and even the people that were there had the courage to go, you know, and it's
exactly. I think that takes courage that you went and courage if you decided it wasn't for you. And I'll bet even so they took something from it. You know?
They did. I'm sure they did. You couldn't have been there and not taken something from it. You want me to share one of my favorite stories? Because at every evening they would have what's called a Dharma talk, which is just talking about the experience and, you know, illustrating the technique. So, and I won't say it exactly the way Goenka did. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. But he talked about a story from his home country, you know, he called it, I don't know if he called it the old country or our country, because he knew he was speaking to an American audience. And he said, in my country, you know, this is a story. And it was about a mother who sent one of her sons to the store with 20 rubles with money and to buy oil. And the boy goes to the store, comes back, trips, and drops half the oil. He comes home crying. Mom, I've dropped half the oil. I'm so sorry. I dropped half the oil. And he says, story is story. So she sends her second son to the store to get oil. And he comes back, he trips, he falls, and he loses half the oil, but he comes home elated. He's happy. And he says to his mother, Mother, I tripped and fell, but I still saved half the oil. I have half the oil left, look. And he says, story is story. So she sends her third son to the store to get oil. And he comes back and she says, this son was a Vipassana meditator. And he was grounded in truth and reality. And she says, so he says to his mother, I dropped half the oil. It is half full. He says, that is the truth. He said, and tonight, he said, I will work and I will earn the amount of money it takes to fill the jar to its brim. And he said, that is an illustration of what Vipassana teaches you to do. Is, you know, story is story, but it helps you to walk your path with your eyes open. And I really connected with that. Because I realized that, you know, both you and I are very optimistic people, but we move forward in action. You know, we don't sort of sit back and say things will just happen without our effort. And this is all about everyone's individual effort at refining themselves.
Oh, I like that. I like to hear it described that way. And I really believe that that's true. I like a lot of the topics we're going to talk about, I think are going to be very interesting, like in particular, courage. I'm not sure when this recording will be presented, whether it'll be before or after courage, but I think that's really interesting because I think it took courage for you to go on this journey for 10 days. And I think that the Love.Being.Human process is also like the underpinning is courage. So I think there's just so many different parts of it that are so interesting and that all kind of intermingle together.
Yeah. They flow together. You know, I think if my mind serves me well, that the Greek origination of courage means to have heart, to move within your heart or towards your heart. And that, that takes a complete intelligence, a complete awareness and alignment of everything of who you are. Because, and that's why I said we limp along with our minds.
We do. That's a really good way of putting it. I like that very much. And sometimes it's small tweaking, and then sometimes it's big tweaking that we need to do. And I think it's being able to decide, I'm going to take a look at that, and I'm going to try, and I'm going to see if there's a different way I could look at this, or a different way to think about it, or a different approach to take to something. And
yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You just
No,
said
go
something
ahead.
so significant. That's another, probably of the top 3 things that I got out of. One of the things, when you just said you take a look at it, you sit with it. You have the courage to turn around and face it. That is exactly it, Rebecca. One of the things that he described in one of the talks was, over thousands of years, sages, intellects, philosophers, they think of ways to alleviate our suffering. And one way that people use a lot that really works is a diversion, especially in American culture. We divert ourselves by staying busy, by distracting ourselves, by, but what that does is it suppresses the negativity that we're facing. And the way he described it is that it leaves us with a sleeping volcano that you never know when will erupt, because you haven't uprooted that negativity. You've just distracted yourself away from it. And so this technique, and I believe that the more courageous action is to sit with your fear, to look at it. And in this technique, the way he describes it is I think it's called sakharas, and it's a different language. They dissolve and they melt away. And that's how you become purified in your mind, is because you've had the courage to sit and face it. And, not as an enemy, not as an adversary, but as a scientist, to look at it and say, what meaning do you have, and how does this interact, and, just developing everything around it. So, yeah, that was very insightful of you. That is exactly a big component of it.
Vivian, that's really interesting that you mentioned that. And I think it also makes me start to think about another topic we have coming up, and that's time. And I think that that's something that we all have. We all have time, and we select how we're going to spend that time. And, sometimes being busy can be a good thing if it depends on how you're being busy. But I do think it's important that we take a look and stop and pause. And I think it's really neat that you went on this 10-day journey. And I have to say, better you than me. I don't think I could have done it.
I didn't know I was going to do it. And there's a form that you fill out because you apply. I applied last year, I think, or whenever the registration opened. So it's been about a year in the making. But when I got there, you fill out, emergency contact paperwork and that sort of thing. And one of the things at the bottom was, how did you hear about this? And I was like, I don't even know. I just know. And just as a side note, I searched it out. I happened I just kept searching for something like this, and this came up. And I was lucky enough that it's within driving distance. There are centers like this around the world, 6 in the United States outside of California, and one's right in my backyard. So that's cool.
Yeah, that is, Vivian. It's really neat. Well, I guess
Are you curious about anything else?
I was trying to think if there was did you have a moment where all of a sudden you said, oh wow, oh, that really is significant. That's I have to remember to tell Rebecca or somebody about that. Was there something like a moment like that, or was it just like a gradual, how was the feeling of like, I know it was a learning experience. Was like every day you felt like you learned something new, or was there?
Yeah, it was very gradual. It was, I've heard people describe things, like drip by drip, drip by
Mm,
drip, because it was so consistent. The action and the concentration was so consistent. Some of the experiences that I had while I was meditating were, I don't want to share publicly
oh,
because they were just like, I don't know if my mind believes them, but there was one response that I had to one of his talks, because I so love dialogue. I so love what you and I are doing. I conversation is a conversion. And there was one part where he said his teacher, the teacher of the teacher that I was listening to, because it's a lineage from the original ambassadors that Buddha sent out almost 2,500 years ago, which is a long time. He said that over all his years, hundreds of thousands of people that would come to the meditation center, that he's seen 4 categories of people. People that are in darkness, walking to darkness, in darkness going towards the light, in the light going towards darkness, and in the light going towards light. And there was everything revolved around the law of nature. And the way that he described that is, that path from where you are to where you're going is by your own hand. It is by the seeds that you plant, because seeds multiply. It takes time, but when you put a seed in the ground and it bears fruit, then that fruit has seed. And that was very significant for me, because it reaffirmed what I believe, which it might be, and what I want to teach, and that is that we have, we are the captains of our, what is that? Do you know that quote by heart?
no, I don't.
Oh, that's a beautiful quote. But we are the ones that determine our lives. Our responses, our choices, like you said, and our actions determine what path we're walking on, and whether we're walking it blindly or we're walking it with our eyes open. And it was an awakening, because for me, I always have like kind of a little bit of a Chicken Little syndrome. Like, when is the sky gonna fall? Like, this is way too good. Like, the sky's gonna fall, something bad's gonna happen. And it's not gonna happen to me unless I've cultivated it. And I can see things that I've experienced that were painful, and when I have time and distance from them, I can see how I walked directly towards that pain, and how I walked back, and how I turned back again. And I think I've said this on a podcast, I'm not sure if I have, but when I talk to my mom about, some of her patterns towards pain, she says, my heart forgets.
I think that's so beautiful.
And yeah, and this is about remembering. This is about, I think it was Aristotle or Socrates, one of those two, that says learning is remembering. And this learning is by direct experience. And Love.Being.Human will be by direct experience. It is not that I will be teaching someone something they don't know. It is that I would be, or have the honor, the privilege of walking along someone as they follow their own path and learn their own truths. Because we are our own best teachers. Oh, you know what? One thing I did have that was an aha moment. Because I drove straight from the downtown office. So I drove straight from work to the center. And I had some papers that I had printed. I had this craving. I mean, I almost wanted to somehow break the rules, go to the car, get the papers, and read them. There was nothing significant in those papers, but they drew me like a drug. They were the main distraction for me during those 10 days.
Oh, wow. The
Isn't
papers
that
are.
curious?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
Interesting.
literally, it was like twiddling my fingers, like biting my nails, like I want to go get those papers. And I realized that for me, that and I wanted to sit by the window. You know, the Buddhists teach that, you know, you relieve yourself of attachment. And for me, that aligns to not attaching to the outcome. We are doing this work. We know, you and I know that Love Being Human is good work. But we don't know what the outcome will be like, and that's okay. If it lands softly for people and helps to cultivate their earth and bear their own fruits, beautiful, wonderful. If it doesn't, I can't help that, you know?
No, exactly. It's like Vivian, is it like when you talked about a seed, love being human process. It's like they're they're going to be the gardener, and they're going to plant that little seed, and they're going to water it, and it's going to be so exciting when the little tiny leaves poke up, and they can look at that process like growing something. It's exciting, and one day it might be a plant, and sometimes you get a tomato, and sometimes you get tomatoes that have black spot. I mean, it can happen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I think that the Love Being Human process, you got a pretty good chance of coming out with a nice garden if you plant seeds and take care of them.
I'm hoping for that. Well, and one of the things that I've heard in other teachings is that rain is rain. You know, Love Being Human will be what it is. And in some cases, it'll, you know, foster good things. And in other cases, people won't gravitate to it, and that's okay. You know, it's only there for the people that in this community, I think it's called the Sangha, for those that, you know, align with it, for those that are called to it. But finishing my story about the papers, I realized probably after 3 days of wanting these papers is that is such a mirror for my life right now. And you know this, you know, I want more information. I want more and more and more. You know, and I almost gave myself the message that I have enough. I know enough, and I just need to share it. Like this, just be settled in what I have and share it from here, not to keep craving for more and more and more and more outside information, because the information is within me.
Well, what is it my husband says? You know what you know, and not to focus on what you don't know, because you are the expert at you know what you know. He likes to say that. I can't find the exact way he says it, but it's true. You do, Vivian. You know what you know.
Well, and for me, Rebecca, and I think it's something happened when I did my dissertation research about 5 years ago, is that the more I learned, the more I realized I did not know. And I think this broke that pattern.
Oh, that's good. That's fabulous. Oh, I have a question. When you get out to the car, did you grab those papers and look at them?
I have not even looked at them yet.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
I have not even looked at them yet, because I don't feel that I have a need like that. Like, it's almost like now I know what needs to be created, and I know that those papers aren't going to like be of direct value to helping a person. And that's where I feel very focused right now, is what actions am I going to take that are going to start to help people directly.
That's fabulous, Vivian.
Wow.
Thank you so much for being with us here today. If you enjoyed the conversation, we invite you to connect with us by joining our inner circle at viviancarrasco.com. Remember, move with purpose and take inspired action.
Thank you for joining us today here on Turning Inward with Dr. Vivian. If the show moved the needle for you, please leave an honest review in iTunes. And also make sure you cruise on over to viviancarrasco.com and join us for personal strategies and tips to help you move forward. Ciao, baby.